So Do in the Morning just posted up a video on defining atheism, and I thought what I would try to do is to chime into that video and to talk about some of the ways that I've expressed my concern over both atheism and theism in terms of negative theology and in terms of how you can't really say what God is. I mean, let's just start with this. God is a noise that comes out of your mouth. God. It's a short little monosyllabic noise. You can't possibly mean whatever some person even wants to refer to by that. I mean, there's a great part in The Rhetoric of Religion by Kenneth Burke where the Lord and Satan in this sort of fictional dialogue are haggling about why humans pray, and at one point Satan says to the Lord, why do you even care if they pray? They're just little animals chattering noises. And the Lord says back to Satan, he says, "Oh, Satan, you're my favorite pupil." He says, "You will agree that even if they're just linguistic forms being reflected upon by language using animals, these could be a true inkling of the divine insofar as language itself is made in the image of divinity." I think there's something right-minded about that. I think in the beginning was the Word, and the Logos is a divine Logos. That doesn't mean, though, that you can talk about God. It doesn't mean that I guess the reason why I perhaps appear to most people who are Christians or dogmatic people to be atheist, and maybe why I feel so comfortable with atheism, is because I hold a kind of negative theology that there's no possible way to talk and take yourself seriously about the divine. I mean, there's part of it. I mean, even the word divine, it doesn't even work. I mean, it's a short little, it's a noise that we make. It has to be much more complex than that. It's like a symbol that you use to meditate upon what is ultimately beyond what one could say. It has to do with an overarching understanding of oneself, one's connectedness to everything else, and a certain feeling about the purposefulness of life itself, of the emergence of life. I mean, I'm always vexed, and I would like it if someone here could help me with this. The people who want to be hardline determinists, and I mean, I guess there are not a lot of people out there, but if you're a really hardline determinist and you think there just is hard, absolute materialistic deterministic universe and there's no free space, no emergence, no wiggle room for choice and decision, how can that person also hold that life was an accident or a fluke? I never really got that, how people can claim that life is both a fluke and deterministic. Some of that, I'm not really sure the incompatible frameworks that are being juxtaposed, but I think this issue of, let's take the Draw Muhammad Day. There were many people who were, in the face of the Islamic fundamentalists sort of saying, look, too bad for you, we're going to draw these things. And, I guess part of me is somewhat sympathetic. I think there should be religious freedom, but I do think that, people have to learn to tolerate other kinds of freedom of expression, right? There's lots of kinds of freedom that are interlocking here, but the larger issue of, is there something right-minded about the admonishment to people that you can't properly symbolize your deity? That is, iconoclasm and the iconoclast movements of different points in history where people wanted to really suggest that, iconography and images and even the word, if somebody says Jesus Christ, people say, oh, you took the Lord's name in vain, and that's, you're not supposed to do that. This kind of admonishment, it kind of makes sense to me, that I think there is something divine and mysterious about the cosmos, but it has to do with the room making nothing of discourse, not with anything said per se. And what could be worse than thinking that you could actually talk about God, whatever that would mean, and this would be this sort of notion of there, he is some sort of being, and he has characteristics, and he cares about things and pays attention and all this kind of stuff. That to me is a very odd sort of theism. I mean, I don't even get that. I mean, I'm at a loss for people who think of their own theistic position in terms of a being or a guy or an entity or a creator or some sort of person in some way who has volitions and I don't know, intervenes, and has preferences and makes judgments and all this kind of stuff. That is Those are the kinds of things that negative theologians or people who do negative theology, they want to come in and say, look, that is exactly what is the problem. So what room is there left for atheism? I guess from my own perspective, I would hope that maybe the atheists just want to say, don't talk about things for which you cannot speak. Just go like that and go. I mean, I wonder if there isn't something about a kind of hardline empiricism and a no nonsense, um, I don't know, I guess a Buddhism of some that just, it says, netty, netty, don't go there, don't go there. Don't try to reduce what is obviously beyond what you would be able to say down into just some terms for you to be able to say it. I think that's part of the seduction. I think that's part of the reason why many people find religious self-righteousness so distasteful. It's like, here, I'm going to tell you what God thinks. I mean, I'm going to speak on his behalf. And he and I, we're close. We're real good, and we're tight, and all this kind of stuff. It's kind of vile. It's an obvious political bulldogging. It's it's oppressive in a lot of ways. Um, I don't think, though, that the the sense of the spiritual, the sense of the sacred, the sense of the divine will be fully removed with silence. What we will find is that there is a kind of silent understanding of mystery, and it's what begets speech. It's not the things said, it's the calling of the word as a response. I think I've said before that I don't find atheism to be an intelligible position, and I know that that upsets some people. They say, "Well, what do you mean?" And I've said also that the the bulk, if not a high number of the religious people, they're much scarier. They're much worse. I would prefer to hang around with people who don't believe in any God than to people who claim to be good friends with God and they're on his good side or her good side, whatever that is. I think the task is to recover the divine mystery that's beneath the level of words, beneath the level of talk. It's beyond anything that could be said, but it's speech itself which opens us to that. Like, I can talk about the fact that the divine is unspeakable. It's so many layers, right? I mean, it starts to get layer upon layer of saying what is not the case. And I think some of it really does move toward a it's a kind of negative theology. It's a kind of recognition of mystery. And it's not a happily ever after. It's not some sort of, oh yes, I'm so glad there is a God and we're all saved or something weird like that. No, it's hear the good news. You are part of everything that has ever existed and ever will. And right now, while you're alive, you can contemplate everything from mathematical regularities to the order in the cosmos to the interconnections between all of the different organisms. I think to be human and to have language is to have a kind of transcendence, and it's more transcendence than you could ever need, and yet people are looking for false transcendence, some kind of cheap stucco under the word God.